Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present you about the GitHub Flow, focusing mainly on the branching, merging, and how to work as a team with this flow. So this session is like mainly conducted to cover the topics related for Git and GitHub. So it's like a very large area that we can do a session, but I'll try to cover the best I can. And if you have questions, like raise at any time. So the contents will be I will cover the Git basics, and then I will take you through how we do the branching and creating the pull requests, and what are the forks, and how to do a peer review, what are the tools that we have on GitHub, how to use those things, and the different merging strategies, what are the actions, and when you create a repository, what should be concerned about, and what is the future, and like what are the latest trendy things that we can try on Git and GitHub. So first, we'll start with the one-on-one, like the Git versus GitHub. I think most of the people are like confusing that these two are the same thing, but uh, these two are two different things. Actually, Git is the one which is like came earlier. GitHub is like a provider who is providing the Git system. So it's like the main idea is about the Git is like for managing the version controlling, and the main idea is to track and what kind of changes are made on the code bases, and how we can collaborate as a team. And it mainly like look usually it's working as like a command line tool, but right now we have GUIs as well. And the GitHub came into play, like everything went to cloud. They also like use the Git ecosystem, but they have added some additional components such as code hosting and collaborations, and maybe discussion flows, continuous integration flows, and maybe dashboards, statistics, so those things. So they just like make it wow with GitHub. Then the branches and PRs, like this is the I hope like everyone is familiar with the GitHub, so I will cover only like basics and some advanced concepts as well. So since you are aware with the concept like branch, we usually when we why we need to create a branch is like two different things. Uh, the reason to create a branch is to create a separate flow out of a stable code base. So we need to differentiate our entire work into a separate line. So that's why we call it as like a the branch which is coming out of a tree. So we can separate our new features or like fixes into separate branch. So there, the way of like merging those things into the initial code base is through pull request, or as like we can directly even merge it. But the best practice is like to go with the pull request. Uh, the other concern is like we have to continuously keep up to date with the main branch, because a lot of people are working on different features, and like sometimes main branch is like going to have different new things which is needed for your feature. But there are also like strategies when we are getting these latest changes, and like how we integrate our features or fixes into the main branch. So I will describe that in later slides. And if you can see in this image, like it's how it's the way that we define a strategy is like totally based on the company. So and we can actually standardize these things as well. Like if we are creating a feature, we can create like nested structures, and if we are doing a bug fix, like we can go for like this structure. And the same way, like we can manage into different levels like releases, or maybe the hot fixes. There can be different standard, but these are not like uh, very well defined. So you have to formulate whatever the strategy working for you. But it is like typically uh, created as like a clean strategy. So that's why we adopt forking, because most of the main repositories we can see they are not like diluted. So we allow developers to work on forks, because we have to create make the branch strategies and branches and settings, everything looks cleaner. So we create forks. I will explain what we can do with forking, and what's the reason for going for forking as well. Yeah, so when we are creating, so the as I mentioned, like getting your changes into the existing main branch or the main code base is through a PR. So the purpose is to collaborate your changes into the main repository, and these changes are proposed in a way of like branch, and we should like that particular branch should also like contain finished and approved work. So we have to make sure the PR, when you are creating the PR, it's working ready. But that's the initial idea. But different people are following different practices. But these things like came into play when we have these open source projects, because there are people who are not familiar with the uh, certain standards. So they are coming from different backgrounds, so they have to be given a set of rules how you are going to integrate your code bases into a global code base, like which is already standardized and well maintained, and like well executed. So you have to be following like this PR strategy, because the repositories usually are locked with certain policies. So I will explain that in when we are creating the repository, what things we need to do. So usually these the branch creations and those things are limited to restricted people, and how we can merge these things also like handle very carefully. So that's why like we came up they came up with a concept called pull request. So as I mentioned, like these branches should be clean. When you are creating a PR, make sure like the when you before creating the PR, actually you can do a comparison. So after the comparison, you can open up the PR. You can make sure that you go through this each PR before sending that to a reviewer. So and when you before, actually this is coming before the creating the PR, like your commit messages should be descriptive and very mean. I mean they should have a meaning. So for an example, like uh, most of the people are following like lowercase commit messages, and there is a conventional commit guide as well. So I added this link here, so you can check whether like how these conventional commits are. Like they have a predefined strategy defined along with this RFC 2119. So it's like well defined how you should create the commits, but it's not 100% like uh, correct for all the work, because sometimes it can be like more work for the developers, like focusing more on the comments. And I won't go into deep level like how you should form the commits and what kind of things you should be considering when you create the commit. But make sure like your commit message is like ideal, and it will be really helpful for the later people or the debuggers, like to identify or like separate your cases which actually breaking in future. And finally, the most important thing, like link to issue or task, because some companies are following totally on Git, like they are maintaining their issues on Git, and they can link these things. So I will explain in next slide, like how if you use like these issues, we can have like certain standardized keywords to maintain those issues, like this issue is like resolving and that kind of thing. But since we are using Jira, like you have to at least like add the title for the PR, so then it will make sure that the task is properly aligned to the Jira task. And this is the one that I mentioned, like when you are in progress of the work, the GitHub team has already given a draft state. I mean, some of our teams are still using this one, so it's better to go for the draft state rather than like otherwise, like sometimes reviewers might start working on that. So if you can see like the pull request is like which is ready to work, or like you can mark it as like to a draft version. So it's like a good practice rather than going for labels, which is like enforcing and uh, giving through the GitHub that the you I mean, even if you don't recognize these labels, you can't merge this branch. So it's better to go for this draft version. And the forks. So this is actually coming mainly out of open source projects, because they are having like tightly coupled rule sets where you can't create the branch or like whatever the format you like, and when you can't create these branches, and you it's basically like very restricted on these open source projects. It can be like into closed source project as well, because we can maintain a proper branching strategy, and like we can use like ideal tags, and it's also like very restricted. And the we can totally have the control on how we create the branches, and we the developers can't like create their branches on their own. But in the other way, developers were creating the branch in the reason, like the reason for that is like to work on different cases, like they have to work on different features time to time, and they have to like account. And you can also like share the code and the all the settings with the original upstream repository. So a new term came up with like upstream. So the upstream is like I will explain in the next slide. But you can see like easily, like you can create the fork here, and it will create a copy in your repository. And when you're creating the PRs, like you can do the comparisons into like base and the head. You can see which remote you are creating the PR form, and it will be easy for us to like separate these concerns. And like for sure, like if you have worked with open source project, this is the shared model that they are using. And there will be no junk branches without the developers approvals. Yeah, this is the way that how you when you create a branch, it's like the hardest thing is like how you manage these different remotes, and like how you open up the PR. So it's kind of like complicated for the developers, but that's the way that these most of the open source projects are working on. So you have to like first create the clone the repository which is forked from the original repo, and then you have to set an remote for that. So the you can set like multiple remotes as well, like you can compare into different people's repositories, and like you can create PRs for those things. So this is where that we come across like this remote origin and the remote upstreams. So these are like the upstream is the standard where we it's a norm, like this is referring for the original repository, which is this particular repository cloned from. Um, then after like creating the PRs, we come to reviews. Like this is mainly for reviewers, and like even if you have to have an idea like how to review the PRs, because this is very like rather than going. I mean, it's okay for a going for a call, but you the developers who are reviewing the PRs might not have time for like have a discussions and those things. So you have to be very uh, careful about like how you handle these comments, and sometimes like not with the company policies. Like if you are contributing for other projects, you have to definitely consider like how we actually comment and how we actually review these things. So when we like reviewing, actually we mainly do like if we are using Jira, like we make sure like the task is properly added to the task. And if the automation is like configured for maybe the depend about configurations, or like other security vulnerability scans, like those things should be passed. And like if they have any issues, like we have to sort that out. And some people actually try to integrate the build as well, like to for an example like whether the code is like properly built and make it is it ready for the deployment, so they can before merging this particular code, they make sure like this code actually works. And some actually run automations as well in this PR to make sure that you are not breaking the existing work, but that totally depends on the environments. So it's like that. So the even though the concepts are there, the companies adopt their own and strategies to formalize this concept, and it's totally depend on the team and the team sizes and how they can operate. And you have to use like a pleasant form of like giving comments, because uh, criticizing someone else code is like very sometimes it can be a problematic. So you have to follow up a proper standard. Like there are guidelines for that as well, like shall we do these things, and like is it okay to is it possible to do something like this. So you have to be in like a proper form when giving these comments, and try to be pleasant in like criticizing these things. It's okay to like point out the issues or the failures, or like whatever the concern that you see, but make sure it's like handle it in proper way, and make sure you cover everything. And you have given like a set of features from the GitHub as well, and such as like for automatic reviews and like filtrations. Use those things, and like you do suggestions properly. And actually finally you should the best practice is to like add a final comment that this PR looks good to me, like that's the usual standard LGTM. So it makes sure like you have someone has gone through the PR, and like it's okay for that person in his capability, that this PR is like okay to go forward. And the reviews like also can be configured from the GitHub. Like you have to decide the ideal number of reviews you are getting, but usually the recommended number is 2. And if you are going with the GitHub issues, like as I mentioned, some companies or the projects adopt this framework. So they have their own keywords. Like if you use close, what happens is like if you merge the PR, the issue will be automatically closed. So it will be easy for the trackers. And when we are using Jira, it will be hard. I'm not sure about like whether they have the same thing for Jira as well, but what we currently have is like we have to go for the task and like change the status. Like it will be not like in GitHub. So in the GitHub, like mainly the issues are open or like close, and these things are automatically handled by these keywords. If you add this, for an example, if you add like a comment for using these keywords, it will be reflected in the PR and the issues. So these things are also like very slightly noticed, but these things do exist. And yeah, these are the tools that I was talking about. when you are reviewing the PRs, like we can. Some people are the default view is this one, but the earlier we have this unified approach. So you can change that one, and you can hide the white spaces. So it's better to like configure these things, and like you can filter out the comments in here. So which kind of comments that you can filter out, and the file filters. For an example, like you can review only if it is like code base only, like we have to only review code bases. We can only select the, let's say in front end work, tsx files and like ts files. You can filter out the images. You don't have to worry about that thing, because if the pr is too big, it will be hard for you to review. And like there is a limit in the github prs as well, like if how big, if it is so big, like it's very hard for review as well. uh, Yeah, and this is also like very useful. I haven't seen like people using this one. So you can actually select the line in here, and you can add the comment, and you can also like use this particular feature. This actually includes the code segment. So if, for an example, like rather than adding a word or a sentence, you can just like fix it, and they can actually commit that particular suggestion. And it will be helpful for the developers as well. And it's just like a suggestive manner. And sometimes it's a bit hard for us to like explain everything in words. For an example, if the function is not properly coded in a way that in an optimized manner, so you can just do a suggestion like this is like not the ideal way. You can revamp this one in this way, and that can be also like committed. It's very handy feature. Try to like use this one. And there are a lot of other comments, but like it's very hard to add everything and like write a whole paragraph on these things. But at least like if we can use this one, it will be easy for the developer as well, like this the way of like introducing your suggestion. And this is also like very important, like conversations, because when you review a pr, there can be several conversations, because there can be several people reviewing this one, and they can be having request. They have like already requested certain features, certain changes. So you have to resolve these changes. But uh, again, like if it is like a fully protected repository, only like the authorized persons can resolve these ones. And if you are the one like resolve, if you are the one who is like fixing these conversations, if it is a fix, try to mention, like as I mentioned, like there is a certain standard words like fixes, like and in the commit message, like that's the usual standard, which is like helping the reviewer to directly go to that commit and see whether that you have properly done the change. So it will be easy for the reviewer to go to that particular commit and review it very easily. And finally, if you are the reviewer, like you have three options. You can add some comment, like if it is like a let's say you are reviewing on other person's work, you don't know whether it's okay to like approve it or like to request changes. So you can just like add a comment, and let them know like you have gone through that, and you have maybe some questions, like it's okay to select that one, and you can approve the pr. That's like giving the consent, like these changes are okay to be merged. And then you can request the changes. If you request the changes, it will go into like block state, like you have to resolve this resolve these requested changes or the conversations. But that's also like if you have only configured the repository properly for that particular scenario. Mm, then the merging strategies. This is also a very hard area for people to understand, and like there are a couple of strategies. I will like try to explain as so simple as possible. and it's like without doing a hands-on job, like how we are doing these mergers and how we are actually getting these comments is like bit hard for explaining just for the presentations. So these merging strategies are like totally also depend on the companies or the projects. They decide, there is no like correct approach, but it depends on the project size. Mainly like if it is like very there are a large number of people, like they tend to have like certain structure in the Git, and like you don't need to go, you don't need to have like a lot of commits there. So like people are selecting different approaches. So that's again like they have given like certain approaches, you have to select what is ideal for you. So the may mostly like use approach is these merge commits. So how it happens is like you have, let's say if you have the main branch and if you have the feature branch, you break the feature branch from the main branch and you keep working like adding D and E commits. And when you are doing the merge, you just add a merge commit instead of like the whole a whole commit which is like working on the feature. And like we actually like linking this D and E into like F, but the merge commit will be reflected on the main branch. And if you want to like just squash it everything and like without having the history, like uh, the earlier one, if I'm not mistaken, like we can, the way that if you are doing in the command line, you can have like dash ff commands to like to see whether if it is like fast forwardable. And like it depends on the project structure. Like if you see like you still have the D and E commits, but if you don't want to have such things and if you just want to like have a single commit, like that's also like possible. We just like squash it. And the last one is the hardest one, rebase. It's widely used on the bigger projects. It's also like not hard, but it's pretty much interesting. Like if you have like a master branch, there is like a concept called rewriting history. So if you can see like there can be features, there can be commits after the branch creation. So you can add like commits in here. And if you rebase origin master, like you have to like since these commits were not existing in these ones, even though like it's done at the same time which is happening on the main branch, the commits will be taken in front of these like previous commits. So which ensures like the a linear history. And it's also like some people are debating like this approach is hard for us and like it's easy. Some people say it like it's easy, and it's especially like if you want like linear history, like they are working like that. And that's again like depend on the projects that you are working on. And GitHub Actions, this is also uh, a different area, but it's a concept which is related for these continuous integrations and continuous deployments. So people are doing a lot of things in these GitHub Actions. Those are like done in like an event. Those are just like we can configure in for events, or like we can give an plan how to execute these things. For an example, like people run on unit test and formattings or a static analysis, or maybe like when you after the code is like properly merged, you can trigger some deployments, you can create these Docker images. And yeah, we also like use these things in our company. And there are like certain strategies in writing these GitHub actions as well. It's also like a different area where you can expertise. Like there are caching mechanisms, there are GitHub action, uh, uh, a marketplace where you have different plugins which make it easier for you to configure those things. So it's again like a different area that you can expertise, especially like related for uh, people who are doing these deployments and managing these things. They are expertising in this GitHub action, especially like how big these actions should be and how these actions. I mean, if we need to get an approval and like getting the logs, informing the team, like sending a sending a notification, sending an email. It's also like again a very wide area. Then you have to like study on your own, like, and how we can integrate these things. And it's also like usually comes up with the request like from a maybe if you need to inform the QA team about a deployment, we can configure an email notification or a team notification. And if you need to run a separate pipeline to trigger something else, we can plan that thing. And you have to actually plan it properly, otherwise like these actions also like going to be a problematic. And it's very hard for do the deployments and like do the releases. And repository setups, like, so to be a wow repository, there are few things that you need to be properly configured. So the main thing is the MD file, the README file. This is the main thing when you come up to this repository. Like you can see, it's the guide, like that how what kind of things that included in this repository. Maybe the steps of like reproducing certain dev environments, or how you should formalize your codes, or the guidelines for the other documentations. It's basically the starting point where you have the main information for your code work. And then the second one is the contributing MD, if I'm not mistaken. Like this is also like created for how you should contribute these things, and like giving the consent, like after writing these codes, there can be licensing issues. So when it comes to these open source projects, mainly like they are concerned about that thing. And the other thing is the git ignore. I think a lot of people have mistaken like how we use git ignores. And like you can actually do like regex patterns in ignoring files, and like what things you need to be ignored in the particular code. So it's better to like initialize this as soon as possible when you create the repository. And sometimes you might ignore the files that is also needed. So that's again a bad practice. So you have to worry about that thing. And then configure these security checks and the rule sets. So that's what I mentioned. Like you have to properly create these rules, you have to define the strategy, you have to align the branching mechanism, you have to align the uh, restrictions on these branches, you have to properly configure the actions which should be running in these merge cases. So that's also like very necessary. And finally the releases and tags. So that's also like any interesting feature where you can create, you can mark the history of your project. Like you have done certain releases at this time, and this release actually had this uh, features release. That's also like for the developers, it's easy for us to like see the history. And like if you need to go back to into a certain a certain let's say checkpoint, it's easy for us. And like it's again like a backup kind of thing. But these days it's bit it's not really used because of the deployment strategies, and like the way that people are following different mechanisms to like overcome these cases. And people have gone away from the GitHub only. Like usually these things are mm, coming from the GitHub to support like to host a project and running only on GitHub. So if you have like other uh, services, it's also, it might be also like possible to like link these things. uh then coming to the future, so if you have used like the GitHub Copilot, so that's also like getting improved time. I mean, we initially got the very basic chat agent, chat. It's not an agent. It's like just a Copilot chat. So right now it's getting like interactions. You can actually use the actions within there, and you can give the context, and like you can change the models. You can actually train your own model with this code, and you can actually use a model to be expertise in a particular code, and like then do the predictions with that. So this is also like not a new thing, but it will be the future for your coding experience. So try to like experience these things if you have not using, but I think these days like everyone is using these chat agents. And this is also like a bit old project, if I'm not mistaken, like came up 5 years ago. So I also like work with this some project like related to this one. This code space is like very lightweight VS Code environment. You can also like integrate in your project, and like it's very easy for this came up with the use case when you are having a large project. You have to like resolving conflict is like troublesome, and like you have to uh, the I mean, without opening your laptop, sometimes this VS Code virtual this code space environment was able to run on very lightweight devices. So it's also like a great tool. But I think it's like even right now they are improving the features which is related for this environment. But this is also like an interesting tool where you can just have a just open up the GitHub repository through the code spaces. And this project management is also like uh, they do they have working on this one. So if, for an example, like if the project is only uh, kept in the GitHub, like they are trying to support like every possible scenarios where you can where you manage the issues, and where you track the PRs, and where you track people who are working on the statuses and those things, like creating the releases and backlog kind of thing. They also have like a solution for that. And discussions, this is also mostly related for open source projects, because people are working remotely. So, and if you are having some issues, like it's open, it's okay to like open up the discussion section. There can be several sections. You, for an example, if you are interested in an AI project, and like if it is like related for some models related for NLP, you can ask for that particular section. And they usually these repositories have different categories and like different discussions opened already. So you can go to that, and maybe if with your experience you can add the comments as well. And it's okay to open up new discussions as well. It's a great place like where contributors may meet and like share the ideas. So try to like uh, see whether like what is happening in their latest work. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And like for if you need like some further informations, I would recommend this Pro Git book. It covers like a lot of things, and like even for me, I haven't like expertise in everything. I'm also like did every day like coming across like new things, but this book is like covering almost all the things. And you can use this if you just need like some simple guide. I would recommend this one, Git Guides. But this is the go-to place. Like it's very informative, and you can see a lot of commands and a lot of descriptions as well. And how to be a pro in GitHub and Git. Obviously, like certifications and professional guides. You can like take time in taking these certification courses to show your fluency. Like they have GitHub Foundations, GitHub Actions, GitHub Advanced Security, GitHub Admin, GitHub Copilot, which is recently added, and the cost is like $99 for each course. If you are like very solid, I would recommend this GitHub Admin. It's very nice, and like if you need to learn everything, I think Foundations is also like, I mean, covering most of the things, but all of these things having nice resources given by Microsoft. So it's also like okay to not to take exams and like go to their study materials and like try to learn that thing. That's what even I do. Like if when I come across like new concept and like new things that which is done by GitHub, they basically explain very detailed in their learning platform. So finally, hope you got something. And yeah, GitHub is essential, and you try to use maximum out of it and try to be updated. And they are also like doing a lot of new things and try to save your time. And as I mentioned, like even though it is like a collaborative platform, try to be polite and make a wonderful team. So this trend is like very old, but this is the octocat which I made. So if you're also like interested in creating your own octocat, you can use this QR and like build your own octocat. uh so that will be the end. Like, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.